Okay. Okay. Hello again. Hopefully this works a little bit better, because I saw that my stream was buffering. So hopefully this works out a little bit better and things are a bit smoother this time. Let's get back to work.
In two, right?
So kind of...
In two, right?
Yeah, I like that. Or I kind of come in...
Still in two, right?
Yeah, look at that, look at that. Look at that bounce. Look at that neat little bounce right there. I kind of like...
In two, right?
Spring outward.
In
I like
two,
that.
right?
That's good. I should probably mark the poses though. So this would be pose B. And then I think this would be C. And then D. Because this is pose A. This is the OG pose.
In two, right? In two, right? It was.
I don't know if I need to add like so many frames.
Berlin was still.
This is kind of like a.
Berlin was. Still,
I'm liking
Berlin
that.
was.
We'll burst outward more and more.
Berlin was.
Although I feel like I might need another in between there because that might be a bit too fast.
Berlin was still.
I don't know about that. Stream doing okay? Yeah, it's doing fine. It's doing fine.
Berlin was.
Because I like that slow in, or I guess slow out, I guess, since it's like the pose, but I like this.
Berlin was still.
It just might be a bit too fast.
Berlin
Do you
was
see that? Might zoom in. Let me zoom in. Look at how fast this is.
Berlin was.
I don't know. It's not a huge deal.
Berlin was still.
And I might move this a bit further down. I remember my animation teacher taught me that like movements going on at the same time. Like if I had moved this here, and they just
Berlin was still.
If Bompa's head turning happened at the same time as me popping out there, it wouldn't be quite as natural.
Berlin was still.
See that?
Berlin was.
He has like a second to process it, and then he looks.
Berlin was still.
So that's one important thing to think about when you're trying to plan out movement.
Berlin was still.
Because you kind of want, like...
Berlin was...
Especially right here, it was tough because I only had so much space for all the sounds that, all the dialogue that Bompa was talking about, so timing was very important. I thought I had much more time than I did because I had to, like, cram in him falling into frame, and then him getting up, and then him wiping the dust off. And that all kind of has to fit in this area. So planning out your time is very important. I'm not always very good at it. That's one of the perks of like working in a digital setting like Toon Boom, because you can move around your frames however you want, as opposed to something like traditional animation where that would be much more difficult to do. We truly do.
Berlin was still.
It's a weirdly blessed time to be an animator.
In two,
just
right?
because of all the tools, the wealth of tools that we have. In many other ways, though, it's kind of a
in two,
not
right?
the best time to be an artist as a whole.
In two, right? It was
AI
Berlin
coming out. I was pretty indifferent to that whole thing. I was pretty indifferent to that, but
in two, right?
I was pretty indifferent to the
two,
whole
right?
AI art thing until I found out that they made their art
right? It was
from compiling or like taking art from like an algorithm of a bunch of other artists without their consent, and that's really bad.
in two, right? It was the piece in two, right? It was I saw the wall. Still,
So I want to have like a little moment where Bompa kind of turns his whole he kind of turns his whole body to face me. So you see how he's kind of facing away from me, like his body is. He's going to take his body and face it, kind of lean in towards me. I don't know if I want that to be before or after I do my little point. Something I gotta figure out. My grandpa always tried to get me into Far Side and Gary Larson, but I was never really interested in it. But it's kind of ironic because I've been studying the style for this animation in particular. Think about Gary Larson's style is just how simple it is. It's like half oval, another half oval, a little Pinocchio nose, and then usually he draws his characters with like glasses or something. Something like this. What he usually draws. Boom. And his characters are like super fat, like they're just like this pill man with like really thick legs and like zero shoulders. Very interesting. And then trying to translate any style into your own style has always been very difficult, although it's been something that I've practiced for a while and it's still pretty difficult. So I think his leg is going to stay right. This leg is going to stay right there. That has no reason to move. And then maybe I might put in a moment where he kind of steps his other leg, because I don't want it to just slide. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to just slide from here to here. I want to have like a little kind of step up, so that makes more sense and feels more natural. But anyway, I do want him to kind of lean in there.
In two, right? It was
I need to get back to marking these poses. So this is pose C. Okay, so this one's going to be pose D. And then this next one is going to be pose E. My teacher always wanted to... My teacher always wanted me to number my frames instead of
Berlin was still
order them alphabetically, but I find that
in two,
ordering them alphabetically is easier because my frames move around so much. If I numbered them whenever I wanted to move them, I would have to renumber them, but if I
in two, right?
alphabetize it,
In two, right? In two, right?
Okay. Whoa, oh god.
It was yes, and Berlin. I saw the wall.
If only, I feel so bad about this part because like he's trying to talk and I'm just interrupting him.
It was the yes,
But anyway, the next pose for Bompa, my grandpa, is going to be him kind of leaning back with his pointing matter-of-factly with his eyes closed. So he's going to be like, yes. So I might draw his torso first and then rotate a little. And then maybe he has his hand on his side. Kind of like this. Okay, let's get rid of all that. Oop. I was just watching a little speech from, press conference from Hakeem Jeffries, the new Speaker of the House. I'm really interested in this kind of stuff. Things, it's just classic kind of. It's more of like a reality TV show fascination than an intellectual one. But he's on the same, saying the same thing the Republicans were saying last time. That the other side is extreme, and that the thing is, like, I'm hearing a lot of rhetoric from both McCarthy and Hakeem about wanting to find common ground and be more bipartisan, but the thing is that, like, they still demonize each other and they still accuse each other of everything, and whenever they open their mouths, so don't really believe them anymore. Okay, there's that pose. I could probably do better with his arm there. Oh my god. Okay, wait. So you see his arm here? His left arm? Wait, no, his right arm. Okay, so this is another thing that I've learned about in animation class. You gotta watch out for that. When you're bending a limb, you have the tendency to shrink it. So you got to be careful about that, because that doesn't look natural. See, that's much better. That looks more like his arm bent. Did I give him 4? Yeah, I gave him 4 fingers, because even though, well, right now they're mitten hands, but in Gary Larson's style, he gives them 4 fingers, even though it's very it's very cartoony style, but he still gives them 4 fingers. Sorry, yeah, 4. Well, hang on, 4 fingers aside from the thumb is what I mean. Like when I look at the main fingers, do I see 3 fingers or 3 or 4? Okay. Berlin was still in 2, right? It was the East and West. Berlin. So I think at this point around here is when Bompa will kind of turn his. Oh, god dang it! It always turns out to be red. Maybe he takes a step. He takes a little step. So maybe his torso moves a little bit, and his... One thing I'm noticing is that his waist is a bit high. Or maybe that's okay. Well, compared to Gary Larson's, like, style in practice, this character, or the way I draw Bompa, might be a bit lanky in comparison. Which I don't know if my young grandpa in his younger years would be described as lanky. Maybe he has his other hand back here, and he's gesturing with his other hand. So he's kind of like putting his whole body into this, like so. Got his hand out here. Okay, cool. That's pose G. Boop. Okay.
And I went Berlin. And I saw the wall. It was the
Yes,
East
and
and
I
West
went
Berlin.
and I saw the wall.
Okay. The audio for this animation might not be ideal. It was very spontaneous.
Air base.
Berlin was still in 2, right? It was the
Yes,
East
and
and West.
So there's like things that are very like crucial to the plot of the story, but because of how impromptu
Berlin was still
the whole situation was, you still have things like me interrupting, or my family members interrupting, or me
Yes,
sniffing
and I
because I was
went-
crying at the time.
And I saw
It's not perfect, but it's what I have, so I'm working with it. So at this point, I'm gonna. Oh, God dang it! I keep forgetting to turn that from red to black. At this point, I turn. Neat. Maybe my hands are down. This is relaxing. I like just talking myself through it. Over here to Berlin. I was originally going to have him like walk over, but I don't think I have time for that, and I just think that this is just easier too. So I'm going to stick with this.
in 2, right? It was the
yes,
East
and
and
I
West
went
Berlin.
and I saw the wall. Get on a flight, and I flew
whoops.
to Ryan, Maine.
Let's see if there's anybody watching. Uh-oh. Oh, man. We're having more problems. Okay. I'm going to end the stream. Hopefully this is okay.